Audible to all? Friends, I am audible to all. Is there is any problem? Is there is any problem in video audio? Okay, which is low. My voice is low. Okay, let me to check it now. How about now? How about now the audio? It's clear. Okay, fine. So we are meeting in a different situation. Instead of classroom, I am from my home and you are all in your home. So I think everyone is very safe and well and good. Okay, I presume that all are good. Okay. So this is our last class. We are going to complete the remaining classes of the Cold War, which we started in the last class. So we have completed only one phases of Cold War. Okay, that is what we are going to complete the remaining phases of the Cold War. Sir, what about you? So I am fine. I am fine. I am fine. I am here in Chennai only. I am doing good. Okay. So and another thing, batch 3, another weekend batch is also joining with us. Of course, those batches come for that batch. We have almost completed all the phases of the Cold War. Only two things are remaining for those batch friends. One is non-aligned movement and decolonization. These were the only remaining portions yet I have to complete for batch 3. Okay, so for that purpose only the batch 3 friends are joining with us today. Okay, so I also asked our batch 3 friends to join in this class. Anyhow, you have completely finished off with the phases of the Cold War. Anyhow, it maybe seems to be a revision for you people, so you can join also. Okay, so I usually use the board only, but now the situation is different. So I use the PPT today. Okay, whatever the content I have presented in the PPT, remaining things I will write down there in the PPT slides itself. Okay, you don't need to worry about the notes and other thing. Once our class is completed, I will share the PPT in the Telegram channel. That would be posted to your Telegram channel. You can download and get it the PPT from there itself. Whatever the notes, whatever the points, important points, key points necessary for the topic, everything is presented in the slides itself. Okay, this is the what you need to do is simply you have to listen the story or informations. This is the only thing you have to listen. This is the thing you have to do. Okay, one. And another most fortunate and happy news for us is our prelims is postponed to October 10. We have a lot of time to prepare. In case if you are well prepared for the prelims and you can prepare for the mains for the first 2 months, that is now we are in the middle of May. Almost we are going to end with May. June, July, August, September, 4 months solidly we are having. So 2 months you can prepare for your mains, and you can remaining 2 months you can prepare for your prelims. So there is no problem at all. In case if you are very strong in your prelims portions, okay, so you can concentrate on mains and optionals, whatever the thing. Okay, we can directly go into the class. Okay, that is what we don't need to waste the time. So we have started with the Cold War. Okay, this is what we have started, and the Cold War, that is what we have started. Almost the Cold War ended with the 1991. It starts in 1945, as we know that. So which we know it from the last class itself. Okay, so next thing, that is the phases of the Cold War. Okay, the phases of the Cold War. The phases of the Cold War, in the last class we have completed with the policy of containment. So which started in 1945 and it ended in 1950. So in the policy of containment means I told you that controlling, preventing. Who is controlling? Who is preventing? Means United States of America controlling Soviet Russia, USSR. So that is what the concept. What preventing they are? They are preventing the spread of communism. They are preventing the aggression of Soviet Russia. So that is what happened in the policy of containment from 1945 to 1950. That was only in the European continent. What we saw in the policy of containment, we saw that during the policy of containment, they divided Germany into 4 different blocks or zone, we call it as. They divided Germany into 4 different zones. And later they integrate, the one zone is for British, France, United States of America, and last one is for the Soviet Russia. The Western blocks, they integrated the zones, 3 zones. British, France, and United States of America, they integrated the zones. That is what in the later 1948 called as West Germany. The Soviet Russian zone was later called as East Germany. So in 1948, Germany was divided into 2 different countries that was called as West Germany and East Germany. West Germany was Democratic Republic. East Germany was Soviet communism, Soviet style of communism. That is what we saw. And another thing, what we saw, Berlin was also divided there, the city of Berlin. So what they did was Berlin divided into 4 different zones. But what Stalin did it was, Stalin blocked the entire connectivity between Berlin and other zone. Because of that, what happened? Berlin was completely isolated inside the Soviet bloc. I told you, the responsibility of providing basic amenities like food, water, medicine, well-being of the people, like these basic amenities is responsible of these 4 countries. But what Stalin did, he completely isolated and he blocked the entire rail, road, canal connectivity between Berlin and the rest of the zone. What happened because of this one? Berlin was blocked. That is what we called it in the early phase of the Cold War. That is what we called it as a Berlin blockade. That is what we called it as a Berlin blockade. Okay, that is what we call it as a Berlin blockade. In the Berlin, what was a response? What was a response for the United States of America and other countries for the Berlin blockade? They lifted the food materials, clothes, medicine, and other basic requirements of the people through flight. That is what we called it as an airlift. That is what we called it as an airlift. This is what happened in the initial phase of the Cold War. Later, 1948, what United States of America did was, it thought that European continent is very sick because of the war, Second World War. Economically, it is very, very sick. So what they thought was, United States of America wanted to provide an aid to the European continent. That is what we call, in the last class we saw, that is called a Marshall Plan, or we also called it as a European Recovery Program or European Economic Recovery Program, we call it as. Okay, so because of that, Western European countries benefited out of that. Slowly, they recovered from the economic crisis of the Second World War. Okay, this is what. And 1949, the European continent was the brink of fear. What fear they had? They had the fear that at any time, Soviet Russia may invade in Western Europe, like Italy, France, Spain, West Germany, Portugal, like these things. So they wanted to have a security from the Soviet invasion. So They jointly created an organization for that. That is what we called it as a called a Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization. We saw in the last class, that is called NATO. We called it as NATO, NATO. Okay, so that is what a military pact by the Western European countries to save it from Russian invasion. One, that is Soviet Russian invasion. Second one, to prevent communism from the spread of communism in the Western European countries. This is what 1949, another greatest shock for the United States of America was the Mao Zedong, that is Mao Zedong, who proclaimed China as a communist country in the Asian continent. So United States of America prevented all ways to spread of communism, but communist state was born in Asia with respect to China. So this was the greatest shock for the United States of America. And in 1950, they bombarded a hydrogen bomb. They have bombarded with the hydrogen bomb. So with that hydrogen bomb, they create with that hydrogen bomb. United States with USSR bombarded the hydrogen bomb. That hydrogen bomb provided a nuclear strength for the Soviet Russia. Now US is also having nuclear bomb, and Russia is also having nuclear bomb. So these two countries are potentially having a nuclear bomb, which was considered to be as a greatest threat for the world. This is what happened in the policy of containment between 1945 to 1950. Okay, so this is what now we are moving to the policy of massive retaliation force. Remaining things are massive retaliation, phase of detente, and new Cold War, and end of the Cold War in 1991. This is what. Okay, so we are moving to the policy of massive retaliation force, which was from 1950 to 1962. Okay, now we are exactly moving to the class now. Okay. Okay. Okay, the phase 2, massive retaliation phase. As I told you, this massive retaliation phase is from 1950 to 1962, almost 12 years. Okay, as usual, what is the concept of this massive retaliation phase? What is a what is the concept of the massive retaliation phase? So, as per this massive retaliation phase, massive retaliation means here it is called as counter. It is massive retaliation means it is called as a counter. Who is countering here? Either we called it as a counter or we called it as a retaliate. Retaliate means return. That is called as a massive retaliation means here we called it as another word that is called as a return. That is called as also as a return. I think the spelling is mistaken here. So return. Okay, who is countering here? Here the countering countries are, as we know, that United States of America, either United States of America counter USSR. Okay, or USSR is countering United States of America. That is, understand, this is Cold War, but both these two countries are countering themselves in the indirect way, not in the direct way, not directly. They were always counter each other in the indirect way, not in the directly. Okay, that is what. That is why this phase is called as a Cold War. Okay, so in the massive retaliation phase, US is going to reply for USSR indirectly. USSR is also going to reply for USA indirectly. This is the concept. Friends, are you clear with the concept? Anyone having any doubt in the concept? Okay. Okay, no one is having any doubt that. Okay, let me move to the next phase. Okay, next thing, we can move it. Okay. The massive retaliation force is started with the Korean War. That is starts with the Korean War. The Korean War starts from 1950. That is with the 1950 to 1953, which was the early phase of the Cold War era. But it starts with the Korean War of 1950 to 1950 to 1953. What they counter. See, that is what we are going to see. What they counter, we are going to see. Wait. You are jumping into two at once. Wait. Okay. So, what they are going to counter, that is what? First one, Korean War, how they are going to counter. Okay. Before going into this Korean War, let me describe about the Korea first, because we need to understand Korea. See, this Korea was an independent country in the early era. So early era, it was an independent country, this Korea. But what happened was from the 16th century onward, 16th century, from the 16th century onwards, China kept Korea under its control. Okay, what? China kept Korea under the control. China kept Korea under its control. So the first one is China, which kept Korea under its control. Okay. Later, when China get declined, when China get declined, when China get declined means getting weakened. When China get declined during the era of what we saw in the imperialism era, that is during the Opium War era. In the Opium War era, China get declined. So in the 1895, in 1895, because of the weakness of China, Japan used that opportunity and kept Korea under its control from China. So what is the condition is this Korea since 1895 was under the control of the Japanese. Okay, under the Japanese. Why Japanese want these Korea? We know that Korea was having lot of resources. It have lot of resources. What was the resources needed for China was present in Korea, like rice, soya, steel, of course, iron and steel. So all these are the basic, all these are the necessary things for the Japan. That is why that is why they kept Korea under the control of the Japanese since 1895. This is the background. Clear, friends? Okay. Can we go into the back? Can we go into the World War? Okay. Now, what happened after this one? Okay. Now we see what was happened there. So during the time of the World War II, during the time of the World War, we just saw that this Japan was under, this Korea was under the control of the Japanese. Okay, we saw that Japanese. This is under the Japanese. So what Allied countries planned was, Allied countries, we know that US, British, France, USSR, all these things. So they planned that China from north, USSR from north. So China and USSR from north to invade in Korea. Invasion means not to occupy Korea. They want to liberate, understand? They want to liberate Korea. They want to liberate Korea from the Japanese. They want to liberate Korea from the Japanese. So China, USSR invaded from the north, and United States of America and British from the southern side. So United States of America and British from the southern side of the Korea, they have to invade. So what happened? This has happened when this was started since the Japanese enter into the World War of 1941, because that only they attacked the Pearl Harbor in 1941. So from 1941, they the Japanese invaded there in the the Japanese invaded the every Asian country. Now Now, Chinese is invading from the north and USSR is invading from the north. USA, British is invading from the southern side to liberate Korea, understand? To liberate Korea. Slowly, they are moving towards north. Slowly, they are moving towards the north. At the same time, they, Chinese and US forces are also slowly, they are moving from the north towards the south. They are also moving towards from the north towards the south. So when the World War was ended almost in 1945, China, USSR were in the half of this Korea. US and British have in this part of this Korea. So automatically what they come to an agreement was, sir, the green portion in South Korea map indicates whose territory. You leave those things. That is a Pyongyang. That is a national capital. That is in the later period. I will tell you. You just understand what I am saying as of now. So when the World War ended in 1945, what they come to agreement was, okay, Korean people don't have capability to form any government as of now. So what they come to agreement was, Korea, no capability as of now, because they have completely affected in war. Later, we hand over Korea to the Koreans. So that is what agreed by both the allied countries, both China, USSR, USA, British, both of them agreed. Okay, both of them is agreed. What happened in between the time, that is after 1940, what happened after this was, in between the time, so we cannot live as like this Korea. See, no one is capable of no one is capability is forming the government. So we can appoint a person north and in south to administrate the Korea. China and USSR appointed a person that is called Kim to the Jung. They appointed a person who China and USSR appointed a person, Kim to the Jung. In the south, they appointed another person. USA, British appointed another person that is called Syngman Rhee. Okay, wait. That is Syngman Rhee. That is for the southern part of the Korea. Okay, understand? We cannot leave Korea like this. We need a person to administrate northern part of Korea and the southern part of Korea. So China and USSR appointed Kim to the Jung for the northern part of the Korea. British and USSR appointed Syngman Rhee for the southern part of the Korea to administrate. Later we can unite Korea. That is what the thing. That is what they did in 1945. Clear, friends? Okay. But after 1945, many developments took place. In the northern part of the China, sorry, northern part of the Korea, Kim Do-the-jung developed a army. Kim Do-the-jung developed an army with the help of China. I shortly write it as China and the USSR. Your army was created by Kim Do-the-jung with the help of China and USSR. So, but this was not aware for Syngman-rhee and the people of Southern Korea. So what suddenly happened in 1950 was, okay, friends, can I move to the next slide? Is it okay for all? Okay, are you clear with this one? Because once the slide is over and then I ask you if you are clear, then only, because I have to erase all the things. Clear? Can I move to the next slide? Okay. Okay. Sorry, a small doubt. Yes. Very fast in asking the doubt. So where the people Kim and Singh are the people of Korea or people of China? No, they are the Korean peoples only. Kim Do-the-jung and Syngman-rhee are the Korean peoples only. They were one of the prominent leaders during the time of the Second World War who resisted the Japanese. Okay, they were the Koreans only. Clear? Okay. Now, now what happened? Suddenly, okay, coming to our story. Suddenly, in 1950, North Korea, this is North of Korea, Kim Do-the-jung, with his army, this army supported by China, this army which is supported by China and USSR. Okay, I'll take this one there. With the support of USSR, slowly that army was moving from north of Korea. They were moving. They're crossing Pyongyang and they were crossing the 17th parallel line. If they cross, if they were 38th parallel line, if they cross the 38th parallel line, that is violation. Because here, who was responsible here in the southern part of the Korea? Because here, US and British is responsible for here in the southern part of the Korea. This is their administrative part. So North Korea, crossing the 38th parallel line, they captured Seoul, the present capital of the Seoul, one of the capital of the South Korea. And now they invaded, they captured town by town, urban city by urban city, and they came up to Busan. See, Busan, that is what the Busan. It was in the complete tip of the in the tip of the South Korea. So they captured. This was happened within 3 months in 1950, and United States of America condemned this one. United States of America condemned this invasion, because this is a clear invasion. So not only United States of America, most of the world nations criticized the North Korea, and they also criticized the USSR, because everyone know that without USSR support, no one can invade no one have the courage to do this one. So they criticized one of the foremost country which criticized the USSR for this one was India, and that was criticized by Jawaharlal Nehru. But understand another thing. During this time, 1950-53, India is a very friendly nation of USSR, but we never encouraged any mistakes that was done in the world platform. Our government is criticized for that one. It criticized the USSR for the invasion here. What United States of America did it was, United States of America have no choice. It have no choice. It has to approach the United Nations organization for sending the peace force to oppose, to flushing out these North Koreans who are invading there in the South Korea. South Korea don't have any army at all. South Korea don't have any resistance forces there. So they were sending the peacekeeping force. Immediately, 28 countries sent their peacekeeping forces. So peacekeeping force. 28 countries sent their peacekeeping forces to Korea for the Korean War. This is what happened in the 1950. Okay. So this is what how the development took place in the North Korea to invade in the South. Okay. Okay. Someone have asked it out. Japanese were expelled by both China, USSR, and US and British. Yes. Yes. Because we know that China, USSR, British, US both were allied countries in World War II. So they jointly expelled the Japanese from Korea. Okay. Are you clear? Okay. Friends, are you clear with this slide? Can I move to the next slide? Okay. Okay. Now you can ask a question. What was the reason for North? What was the reason for the North? What was the reason for the North Korea to invade into the South Korea? See, sir, were the Japanese expelled from Korea by 1941? No, that was took over during the entire Second World War. Almost by 1945, they were expelled. Almost by 1945, they were expelled. Okay. Sir, up to which part North Korea reached in southern parts? Sir, wait. They have reached up to the southern part here. They are up to the tip of South Korea, they have entered. They almost captured the city of Busan, this one. They have almost captured the city of Busan. Okay. I raised one question here. What was the reason? What was the reason for the North Koreans to invade into the South Korea? See, Korea is a single peninsular region. Korea is a single peninsular region, single country. What the Koreans felt it was, if China, USSR, USA and British here, this is USSR. So here they may divide, ultimately they may divide Korea into two. They feared for the division of Korea into two. To avoid this one, the North Korea invaded into the south of Korea to unite Korea into a single country. That is one reason. To unite Korea into a single country. Next one. USA, British is present in the southern part of Korea. Naturally, what kind of government would be established here in the southern part of the Korea? We know that democratic republic country. What kind of country here? What kind of government would be established in the north of Korea? Soviet. So USSR, Russia wanted to establish a communist in the entire Korean peninsula region. Second reason why North Korea entered was to establish a communist state. Establish a communist state in whole of Korea, into the whole of Korea. That was a purpose of invasion of North Korea into the south of Korea with the support of USSR. Clear reference? Have you understand why North Korea invaded? Okay, now we can move to the next slide. Okay, so I told you United States of America, United States of America moved the resolution into the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council approved for the peacekeeping force. They approved for the peacekeeping force for Korean War. So the 28 countries sent the peacekeeping force. India is also one of the country which sent the peacekeeping force during the time. Peacekeeping force during that time. Okay, one of the country in the peacekeeping force. So here, the peacekeeping forces are moving from the south. They are pushing the North Koreans. They were pushing the North Koreans. Okay, they're pushing the North Koreans. Okay, and now they are pushing to the North Koreans up to this part. Actually, they have to stop here. See, they have to stop here itself. Who? The peacekeeping force. But what peacekeeping force did it was, it crossed the 38th parallel line and they keep on moving towards the north. They keep on moving towards the north and they are moved towards like this one. And 1953, what happened was, this peacekeeping, understand another thing, this peacekeeping force was headed by United States of America. Peacekeeping force was headed by United States of America. So when the peacekeeping force was very nearer to the Chinese border and the Russian border here, that is here in the Russian border, the China and Russia feared that the peacekeeping force may invade in China and USSR. Immediately, China brought its army to the boundary of Korea, and Russia brought its army to the boundary of Korea. So seems to be like Chinese army is here, USSR army is here, peacekeeping army is very near to the boundary of the Korea. See, the world countries and the entire world was stunned and they shocked. If they clashes, it would be a third world war, or we can say that, or it would be the extension of Second World War, Second World War II. So the world countries were horribly and shockingly saw the situation. But in 1953, the president of USSR, Joseph Stalin was died. He was died, and the issue was completely diluted, and the USSR army was withdraw from there. And when the USSR army withdraw, slowly the UN peacekeeping forces are also slowly withdraw from the boundary, and the Chinese army was also withdrawn, and that would be the end of the Korean War. So the Korean War ended in 1953 with the death of Joseph Stalin. Okay. So that is what happened in 1953. Friends, are you understand? Can I move to the next slide? Okay. Now I can move to the next slide. Okay. Then 1953, what they did it was, they divided Korea into two. That was a fear of the Korean people. That is still continued, even it is continued today. So in the north of Korea, they have established the Democratic People's Republic of Korea under Kim To-jung. That was under the Kim To-jung, the present Kim's grandfather. In the Republic of Korea, that was Syngman-rhee. So the North became a Soviet state with the support of USSR, and here in the South it became a democratic state, South of Korea. They divided Korea on the basis of the 38th parallel line. So ultimately, Korea was divided into two in 1953. North became a Soviet state, South became a democratic state. with the support of United States of America. USA provided economic aid to the southern part of the Korea. Still, South Korea is one of the economically developed and advanced country in the world. Okay, we know that. So that is what happened. Okay. So who divided Korea? So Korea was divided by United Nation Organization only, because ultimately United Nation Organization divided Korea into two based on the 38th parallel line of the latitude. Okay, that is the thing. Sir, Indian forces is also one of the peacekeeping force. Yes, right. India also one of the peacekeeping force. Not only India, one of the peacekeeping forces. India was heading the Repartee Council. Repartee Council. India was the chairman of the Repartee Council. Chairperson. India was the chairperson of the Repartee Council. The Repartee Council chairperson was General Timmaiya. General Timmaiya was the head of the Repartee Council. Okay. So Korea was divided into two in 1953. Clear, friends? Okay. Can we move to the next slide? So it is the end of the Korean War. Can we move to the next slide? Yes. Yes. Okay. Next one. Next one, we are, sir, repeat. Repartee Council means what? Repartee Council means, okay. Repartee Council means that is for the refugees. Refugees. They have to look after the refugees who migrated during the time of the war, who were affected during the time of the war. So it was a responsibility of the India to head the refugees council during the Korean War. Clear? Okay. So Vietnam War. Korean War ended in 1953, and the Vietnam War started in 1954. There is no breathing space. You think that the Korean War ended in 1953, and within a year there is another war that is called Vietnam War, the most ugliest warfare of the modern world. There is no breathing space, breathing time also for the. Okay, so that is the thing. Okay. Vietnam War. So, but this is what we called it as a Vietnam, but this is called as Indochina, as I told you. This Indochina was ruled by the imperialist country France, I told you. Okay, here communism was spread during the time of the, I repeat, communism was spread during the time of the World War I. Okay, so here Ho Chi Minh was a leader. Ho Chi Minh was a leader. He created an army that is called Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army to resist the French. We saw that during World War. We see this during the time of the World War and other thing. Okay, so okay. What happened during this? What happened during the time of the World War II here in Indochina region? As usually, during the time of the World War II, the Japanese invaded. Okay, the Japanese invaded. The Japanese invaded here. Okay, so the Japanese invaded in the Laos, the Japanese invaded in the Vietnam, the Japanese invaded in the Cambodia. In the entire region, the Japanese invaded and the Japanese occupied it. Okay. The Japanese invaded and occupied. But here, enemy to enemy is a friend. So in that concept, enemy to enemy is a friend. In that concept, France joined hands with the Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army, because Japanese is a common enemy for both the one. So Japan is a common enemy for both the one. So France and Vietnamese people joined hands against Japanese, and they resisted. And they have resisted. and they have resisted the Japanese invasion. Okay, and they have resisted the Japanese invasion. Okay, clear? This was the background. Clear up? Okay. Sir, what is BSRA? I think if you attended the imperialism and colonization, world between the wars class, you may know about it. Those who missed it may ask for this class. BSRA means Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army. Understand it? BSRA means BSRA, Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army, which was headed by Ho Chi Minh. Okay, the main job of this Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army is to fight against the France, to liberate Indochina from France. This is the thing. Clear? Okay. BC, we discussed these things during the time of the world between the wars. Those who attended it, they may know it. Okay. So this is the background during the time of the Second World War. Friends, against France or Japan, friends, one person have asked the doubt once again. See, you have not attended the class, I think so. So you go through the previous class, world between the wars, then you can able to understand it. I told that itself. Okay. Okay. Friends, can I move to the next slide? Can I move to the next slide? Yes. Okay. Okay, one more thing I have to explain here that, and the World War II ended. The World War II ended in 1945. Still, I have to something pending here itself, friends. I continue with here. So the World War II ended in 1945. And what was the Indo-China people expected? The Indo-Chinese people. The Indo-Chinese people expected, they expected that France would give freedom. They expected that France would give freedom to Indochina. They expected that. France would leave out of China. Sorry, France would leave out of Indochina and we would get freedom. But what happened? France not moved. France stayed in Indochina. Stayed in Indochina. So once again what happened? What happened here was the Vietnamese Socialist Revolutionary Army once again resumed their resistance. Once again they resumed the resistance against the France. See, it may be a surprise for you. They are collaborated with France during the time of the World War II, but here their objective is to resist the Japanese during World War II. But after the World War II, France was not moved out. France was not giving freedom for Indochina, and they were stayed there in the Indochina. These Vietnamese people saw that was a danger for the Vietnamese people, and once what they did was they once again started the resistance against France. They armed struggle. Resistance means here it was a armed struggle, not like India. Armed struggle. They started their armed struggle against France. This was continued. This armed struggle continued from 1945 till 1953. Continued till 1953. At last in 1953, France agreed for a peace talk. Agreed for a peace talk. In 1953, they agreed for a peace talk. That peace talk is called Geneva Conference. Don't write Geneva Conference. I write it in the next slide itself. That we called it as a Geneva Conference. Okay. Okay. This is about in this slide. Are you clear, friends? Can we move to the next slide? Okay. Fine. Everyone is clear. Okay. Let's move somewhere else. Wait, friends. Slide have gone somewhere else. Okay. This is what we called it as a Geneva Accord. Okay. This is what we called it as a Geneva Accord. Okay. So I told you the peace talk. The peace talk. The peace talk, that is what the peace talk. This peace talk only held in the Geneva. That is what we called it as a Geneva Conference. And an agreement was signed. An agreement was signed in 1954. That is what we called it as a Geneva Accord. Geneva Accord. Okay. Who were all present in this Geneva Accord? In this Geneva Accord, France, United States of America, British, Vietnam means Indochina. All these were represented there in the Geneva Accord. So, what was the purpose of this Geneva Accord? The purpose of the Geneva Accord, friends, can we move to Geneva Accord means a peace talk between France, US, British, and Vietnam to ending the fight between France and Vietnam in Geneva. That is what. Okay. Can we move to the next slide? I am moving. Okay. So this is what we called it as a Geneva Accord. In the Geneva Accord, the most important thing is France to withdraw. Okay, the first thing is France should withdraw from Indochina. It should withdraw from Indochina. Next thing, the country should be divided into 17th parallel line. So Vietnam also to be divided into two. That is what. And another most important thing was in 1956, an election should be conducted in Indochina to unify the Indochina region. Unify. So they divided formally, but later they are uniting it by means of election. That is most important. By means of election. So here in Indochina, they are uniting they are uniting the Indochina, that is the Vietnam, by means of an election. But United States of America is not agreed with this point because we know that why United States of America is not agreed for that, because north of Vietnam is supported by China. North of Vietnam is supported by China and USSR. We know that both of them is supporting the North Vietnam. Definitely in the south of Vietnam also communism would spread. It is a fear of communism only there. But what United States of America argued was, understand, what United States of America argued was south of Vietnam people objecting. South of Vietnam people is objecting for communism. Objecting for communism. Understand the condition here, friends. North is completely supported by the China and USSR, and of course completely here it is communism. The north of in the north of Vietnam. But here in the south, it was not completely communism. Some liberal people was also there, liberal. They don't want to have a Soviet state. So they are resisting for that. And they are asking the help of United States of America. So United States of America objecting that people of south of Vietnam not accepting the communism here in south of Vietnam. So they are asking the help of United States of America. But United States of America not entered as of now. What it did was it provided economic and military aid to the South Vietnam. Then who is a leader for that? Yes, there is a leader for South of Vietnam who received the aid and military. His name was Diem. And his name is called Diem. South Vietnam leader. South Vietnam leader name is, understand, his name is called Diem. And United States of America supporting for Diem to resist the communism from the north of Vietnam. Now what happened? They told that in 1956 they would conduct an election. But what happened here? North is not accepting the South because they want to get liberal. South is not accepting North because they were communism here. Now North Vietnam and South Vietnam entered into a civil war. Okay, so what the condition here in Vietnam was, Vietnam entered into a civil war. Okay, so Vietnam entered into the civil war era. Civil war era. 1956 to 1976 we can say, we cannot say that. Almost we can say that 1956 we don't need to use 1976. Civil war era from 1956. Okay, friends, are you clear about it? Friends, are you clear? Can we move to the next slide? Okay. Next one. And now that is what the Vietnam War we called it as. Okay, what happened here in the Vietnam War? As I told you, 1956 civil war. The civil war in Vietnam. Now, and who is supporting for whom? North of Vietnam is supporting by China and USSR. And south of Vietnam is supporting by USA and France. Sir, but didn't the communists oppose the election idea even before the US did it? Yes, I will tell you that. Wait, friends. Wait, friend. I will tell you that background story also. North of Vietnam. North of Vietnam is supported by China and USSR. South of Vietnam is supported by USA and France. Okay, coming back to here. Why North Vietnam is not accepting for the South Vietnam, and why South Vietnam is not accepting the North Vietnam, as I told you. But what is the general condition of the Vietnamese people? What is the general condition of the Vietnamese people? See, this Vietnam is a single country. People are like Korea. It is a single country. It is having a single culture. It is having a single language, Vietnam language, single culture, religion, Buddhism, everything is common. both in North and Vietnam. But if you divide like this, then how would it happen? So the people thought they were united. Ethnicity, they were all belong to same Mongolia ethnicity. They were. So what they did was, it is not a justified one to divide North Vietnam and South Vietnam. So not justified to divide the North Vietnam and the South Vietnam. That is why North Vietnam not accepting the election. Okay. So not accepting the election. The friend who asked a doubt, have we clarified the doubt now? Friend who asked a doubt here, election idea is opposed by Vietnam to the United States of America. Are you clear now? See, we are all culturally single country, and this France is a foreigner. Why we have to why we have to conduct the election for this? You simply leave, we rule by ourselves. But what United States of America asking a question, same like India question, like, okay, British can leave India, but we have to hand over government to the responsible people. Who is a elected government here? That is a question. That is why US wanted to conduct the election, because US is asking a question that there is any responsible government. That is what US is asking here in Vietnam also. That is asking a question, that is responsible. Any responsible government here in Vietnam, or any elected government by the people? No, that is not. That is why we want to have an election. United States of America is arguing. Why it was divided, sir? It was ruled by France, and no internal fight like India in Vietnam, sir. See, that is divided everywhere. The imperialist country used the divide and rule policy. They divided physically Vietnam into Lake Korea. That's all. So USA asked a question that there is any responsible elected government in Vietnam to hand over the government to the people? No. So we have to conduct the election. The part who is having the mandatory of the people, we will hand over the government and we would leave. Both US and France is saying like this one. For that purpose only we have to conduct the election. But what happened? There is no possibility of conducting election because the civil war, Vietnam entered into a civil war. To support for the South, United States of America support military and arms and economic aid and everything. So that is what the ugliest phase of the war, that is called the Vietnam War from 1950. The Vietnam War started from 1953 to 1976. It ended. It is one of the very ugliest. USA used all kind of resistance there. It used all kind of forces there. And even the biological warfare was also conducted by United States of America there. Biological warfare means they use the poisonous gas, they use the mustard gas, and they use the acid. They poured the acid into the soil of Vietnam, and which made the soil into infertile. United States of America bombarded bomb over the Vietnamese people, and the many civilian population were died because of the Vietnam War. And even Vietnam War was not acceptable by the United States of American people also. At last, United States of American people realized that our country is doing wrong in Vietnam, and they have a severe opposition from the people of United States of America. After that, only United States of America realized, after that, it cannot able to face the world people, its own people in United States of America. It withdrew in 1976. So that is the end of the Vietnam War. Okay. So the Vietnam War, see here, North Vietnam is supported by USSR indirectly. South Vietnam is supported indirectly by United States of America. So that is how they entered into the Cold War phase. Clear? Okay. So I am moving. That is how the end of the Vietnam War. Friends, I am ending with the Vietnam War. Can I move to the next slide? Are you okay with this one? Can I move to the next slide? Okay. Next one. In the Vietnam War, the most important thing, another thing here is, in the Vietnam War, there is a theory which was told by the Western European countries, that is called as a, what is the name of the theory? That is called the domino theory. That is what we call it as a domino theory. We know that if you kick one card, all other cards will follow one by one another, like that. Like that in Asia, like that in Asia, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, the communist countries are emerging. The communist countries are emerging. Who popularized this theory? This domino theory. This domino theory was popularized by Eisenhower. Eisenhower. He is the president of United States of America. Eisenhower. And his Secretary of State, Dallas. His Secretary of State, Dallas. So this domino theory was popularized by two persons, that is called Eisenhower and Dallas. If you strike one card, all other cards will follow one by one. That is what we called it as a domino theory in the Asian continent. That is by Eisenhower, the President of the United States of America, and Dallas, the Secretary of State. Okay. At the end, it became democratic. No. It became a communist state. That's all. In 1976, okay, that is in 1976, the Vietnam War ended. Vietnam became united. So Vietnam united, not divided. Vietnam united, and it became a communist state. It became a communist state. Not only Vietnam. The entire Indochina divided into two. One is Cambodia. It is also a communist state. And Laos, both these became a communist state. Okay. So could we say this approach was similar to what US and China did in Korea? Yes, we can say the domino theory in China, in Korea and other things, but this domino theory is exclusively for the word used by Eisenhower in Vietnam. So this should be the keyword for the Vietnam War. Okay. So this is what the Vietnam War. I can clear this thing. Can I move to the next slide? Friends, can I move to the next slide? Okay. Okay. The next most important thing is a Cuban Missile Crisis. We called it in 1962 the Cuban Missile Crisis. That is what? The Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. The Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. Cuba. Cuba was ruled by a person with a name called Batista. Okay, Batista or Batista. He from 1933 to 1953 he ruled Cuba. Who? Batista. His regime was an oppressive regime. Oppressive regime. Oppressive means he ruled with the help of army. Why? Because he was supported by United States of America. Why USA has to support for Batista? I will tell you. So Cuba was ruled by Batista, who had a very oppressive regime and with the help of the army. And he is supported by United States of America. Clear, friends? This is the background of Cuba. From 1933 to 1953, this is the condition. Okay. We need to understand about Cuba first. What is there in Cuba? Only one thing Cuba is blessed. That is called sugar. It is called the sugar bowl of world. They had sugar field. They had sugar refinery. They had sugar industry and sugar allied industry, and other capital investment. Okay. So who did all these things? All these things were owned by United States of America and the capitalist. All these investment here in Cuba, everything was owned by United States of America. That is why Batista was supported by United States of America to safeguard the investments here in Cuba. Investments. So United States of America is supporting for the capitalists, but it never directly involved. Through the MNCs, it have supported the capitalists. What these capitalists did, these capitalists are exploiting. These capitalists were exploiting. They were all exploiting the Cubans with less support, with the less money for the sugar refinery, sugar industry, sugar field, like this one. They were completely exploiting. Okay, the background is Batista supported by United States of America. USA had lot of investments in Cuba, in sugar industry, sugar refinery, sugar field, everything is owned by them. Okay, and they're exploiting the Cubans. This is what. Okay, and what happened here? What happened there? The World War. The World War II became a great eye-opening for the Cubans. Eye-opening for the Cubans, and they put up a resistance for the Batista. Resistance for Batista. Okay, so Batista was resisted by the Cubans. Who were the Cubans? And those who resisted the Cubans, and that was a revolution, Cuban Revolution we called it as, and that was a Cuban Revolution by two great leaders. That is what we called it as a Cuban Revolution of 1953, and that was won by Fidel Castro and another one is Che Guevara. Okay, so they drive out the Batista out of Cuba. So Batista ran out of Cuba because of the revolution, ran out of Cuba, and he was exiled in United States of America. Okay. So from the time onwards, from the time of 1953, United States of America opposed for Cuba, and Cuba have no choice. It has to get support from USSR. Okay, so this is the background, how Cuba slowly away from USA and joined with the USSR. Friends, are you clear with this one? Friends, are you clear? Okay. Okay, now we can move to the next one. So USA became, so Cuba became anti-US and ally of USSR. Clear? Okay. And by the time of 1960s, it was started in 1960s. From the time of 1950s, that is around 1950, 1957, 58 onwards, more and more ships, see here, more and more ships were entering into the Cuba. All these ships were belonging to USSR. But understand, United States of America is always closely watching Cubans, what they were doing, because it is a very friendly country of USSR. United States of America is opposing everywhere communism, but under the nose of United States of America itself, a communist country was slowly growing. That was Cuba. That is the most peculiar thing of the United States of America. Under the foot of United States of America itself, a communist country was completely growing. So it closely watching Cuba, and they were peculiar in 1958 and 1958. Why so much of ship is coming into Cuba? And they were very, very doubtful. They were speculative. Why these ships are coming? And they were coming and going. These things. They were very speculative of these things. And in later 1960, it came to know that United States of America that the Cuba have installed the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, ICBM. ICBM means Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. That is what we call it as a ICBM. This ICBM would travel from continent to continent. Continent to continent, which have the capacity of traveling up to 2000 kilometers. Which have the capacity of traveling 2000 kilometers or 2000 miles, we can have it as. So when this was came to know for United States of America in 1961, it was very shocked how it was possible. Not only that, in Cuba they have put the many of the intercontinental ballistic missiles. So what United States of America immediately did it was it sent the United States of American ships to block the entire Cuba. That is what we call it as a naval blockade. Naval blockade. Naval blockade or US naval blockade, we called it as US naval blockade at Cuba to resist Cuba from any ships to go out of Cuban waterways. So that is what we called it as a US naval blockade at Cuba in 1962, 1961, 62, that's all. So what happened after this was, and after this one, when they came to know about that one, all the intercontinental ballistic missiles cover the major cities of United States of America. That was shocked USA. See, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New Orleans, even Washington, and then Pittsburgh, New York, Chicago, okay, Salt Lake City, okay, so San Angeles. So majority of the US cities were under the scanner of the Cuban missiles. That is the USSR missiles, which was put here in the Cuban soil. So what immediately United States of America responded for this situation was, United States of America responded to the situation by putting its missile there in Turkey. That is here in Turkey. By keeping it in Turkey, it brought the majority of the USSR cities like Leningrad, Moscow, Kiev, Jontrek, Perm, Baku, all these were brought under the US missiles. Now both these countries are put their missiles in the respective country and targeting each other. And now the world come to a brink of the warfare. Not a simple warfare. The world is not completely a brink of a warfare. It is a nuclear warfare. It is a nuclear warfare. warfare. So the world come to a new phase of the nuclear warfare in 1962 because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. See, this is going to the end of the world. If they thought like that, if they simply they are going to press a button, the US, the missiles from Turkey is going to attack the cities of Russia, and from Cuba they are going to attack the major cities of United States of America. Every missile is having the loads and loads of nuclear materials. They're having loads and loads of nuclear materials. So it is a nuclear warfare. And in 1962, the world come to a brink of a nuclear warfare. There is a high time crisis of the Cold War. We called it as a Cuban Missile Crisis only, because it involvement of the nuclear warfare between US and USSR. But who prevented this issue? Who prevented this nuclear warfare? Of course, the United Nations Organization. The United Nations Organization General Secretary, you thought, the US General Secretary, you thought, shuttled between US and USSR, and he spoke to the two presidents of the United States of America and USSR, and he asked them to dilute the situation and thinking of the responsibility they are playing in the world scenario. And both the presidents accepted to remove the missiles from Turkey and Cuba. So later in 1962, at the end of the 1962, in 1962, they have removed, or we call it as dismantled the ICBM. Dismantled the ICBM from Cuba and from Turkey. So the world was saved from the nuclear warfare by means of the United Nations Organization and its General Secretary, you thought. Okay. So who were the leaders in US and USSR during this time of 1962? Yes, very good. The leaders of John F. Kennedy in United States of America, Nikita Khrushchev was a premier or president of USSR. These were the presidents during the time of Cuban Missile Crisis. I simply write it as JFK, John F. Kennedy of United States of America, Nikita Khrushchev of United States of America. Okay, so this is what. Okay, so that is how the Cuban Missile Crisis was ended. But the world was very near to the brink of the nuclear warfare. Clear? Okay, friends, are you clear with this? Can I move to the next slide? Can I move to the next slide? Clear, sir. Okay, very good. By the sun. Yes, sir. Recently, one movie came regarding Cuban Missile Crisis named The Courier. Yes, I also watched that movie. Yes, it's a yes, that is also the thing. Okay. Defensive pact. The defensive pacts which was signed. The defensive pacts which was signed during the massive retaliation phase of 1950 to 1962. We have to see this one, defensive pact. Okay. What are the defensive pacts that were signed during this phase? One is Seattle. One is Seattle. Seattle means Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. Okay. It was between the non-communist states to ensure a collective safety from an alliance against the communist states during the Cold War. Very simple. Non-communist state collectively to form Seattle. Against whom? Against the communist state. Against the communist state. What was the objective of this Seattle? To prevent communism, prevent the spread of communism, prevent the spread of communism in the respective area, in the respective area or continent. So that is what Seattle. This Seattle is also called as Manila Pact. This is also called as Manila. This is also called as Manila Pact. Seattle, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, we called it as a Manila Pact. Communist against a non-communist to prevent the spread of communism in the respective country or in the respective continent or in the respective area. That is what we call it as. Clear? It's a simple one. No need to much explanation for this one. Next one is same. CENTO. This is called Central Treaty of Organization. This is also called as Baghdad Pact. This is in the Middle East. Mostly we called this CENTO here is in the Middle East. That is in the Middle East. Middle East. To prevent the spread of communism. To prevent the spread of communism. In West Asia, or we called it as West Asia, or we called it as Middle East. Okay, so we simply call this as a Baghdad Pact. Okay, CENTO, Central Treaty of Organization. Clear? Okay, so CENTO and Seattle is a peace pact which was signed in the massive retaliation phase. Clear? It was signed in the massive retaliation phase. Okay, so that is what the Baghdad Pact. Okay, not much to explain. Okay. Next, phase 3, detentive phase. Phase 3, we called it as a detentive phase. Okay. Friends, can we have a break? That is it. There are friends. Friends, can we have a break? Now the time is 7:30, I think so. Yes. Can we resume by 7:35? We can have 5 minutes break. Okay. So friends, we can have a 5 minutes break. Previous slide you want. I'm going to give the slide only. Why you are bothering? Yes, friends, we can resume the class. Yes, we can resume the class. We can start it now. We can start. Can we start? Is everyone there? Yes, yes. Very good, very good, very good. Okay. Detentive phase. The third phase is called the detentive phase. Okay, what is mean by detentive? Detentive, as per the concept, as I told you, detentive means melting phase. That is melting. So the Cold War, or the relationship between US and USSR started to get melted. Melts means the hard relation, not ordinary relation. The hard relation between the two started to get melts, and there was a blossom of relation between the US and USSR. So blossom of relation. Or in another way also we can say that. This is what we called it as a peaceful coexistence. Peaceful peaceful coexistence between US and USSR. Okay, so that is called the concept. So the detentive phase means it is a melting phase and a blossom of relation. In another word, we can say that peaceful coexistence between US and USSR phase. Clear? Okay. So this is a concept. Okay. Now, what happened here? How the blossom of relationship between the two happened during this era. This is by exchange of diplomats between the two countries. So the exchange of the diplomats, US and the USSR started to exchange the diplomats. The visiting of two presidents to the capital, and one is to Washington DC, and another one is to Moscow. Another is one to Moscow. And various peace treaties, nuclear peace treaties like partial test ban treaty. What is mean by this PTBT? That is called partial test ban treaty. Banning testing of nuclear materials in air, water, or in surface. That is called as PTBT. Banning the testing of nuclear materials in air, water. Water means underwater. Water means underwater or surface. But there is a loophole here in this PTBT. They have not mentioned about underground. No mention of underground. So India used this opportunity, no mention of underground. So we did the Pokhran test, Pokhran 1 in 1975. Okay, by Indira Gandhi, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, our Honorable Prime Minister of India in 1975. Okay, so partial test ban treaty. So this is because by the effort of both US and USSR. And another nuclear peace treaty like NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. What is mean by that proliferation? Proliferation means avoid spreading. So avoid spreading between whom and whom? To avoid materials from nuclear possession to non-nuclear countries. For example, India is a non-nuclear country. But anyhow, if US or USSR provided nuclear materials to India, then India became a nuclear possessive country. So in order to in order to avoid the proliferation of materials from non-nuclear from nuclear countries to non-nuclear countries, they bring up a treaty with the effort of US and USSR that is called Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, that is called NPT Treaty. Clear, friends? Are you clear with this one? Okay. Yes. Can I move to the next slide? Okay. Next one. Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. That is what we called it as a Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. We called it as a SALT Treaty. This is between the US and the USSR. Okay. What is this Strategic Arms Limitation? Means limitation. Limitation in what? Limitation in production. Limitation in production. Strategic Arms Limitation. Limitation in production. Production of nuclear materials between US and USSR. So as a responsible country, they are trying to reduce their limitation. They are trying to limit the production itself in the nuclear materials as a responsible country of bringing a nuclear free world. Okay, so that is what. So melting phase, another example of the nuclear melting phase is Vietnam War, end of Vietnam War, that is in 1976, and US withdraw from Vietnam. Vietnam withdraw from Vietnam in 1976. That is what the thing. And another most important thing of the detentive phase is the Outer Space Treaty. So both US and USSR consider that outer space is exclusive. Outer space is common for all countries. Outer space is common for all. Common for all nations. All nations. No one can claim outer space exclusively for them, because US and the USSR have a satellite race. Both of them started to send Apollo, Sputnik, like this. They are sending satellites. So they come up with a conclusion that outer space is common for all nations. That is universal. That is universal mankind. It is for the universal mankind. No one can own space. Mankind, not king. Mankind. So universal mankind, not for exclusively for any one country. No one can claim it. That is what we called it as a outer space treaty. That is called outer space treaty. This outer space treaty was in 1950s, I think so. 1950s. Okay. 1960s, they come up within the 1960s. Okay. Okay. So this is what we called it as a nuclear peace treaties and the detentive phase. Okay, detentive phase is concept is peaceful coexistence, the blossom of relationship between the US and USSR. Okay, that is the thing. Okay, so this is what we call it as. Okay, this is what the detentive phase. Next one, the phase 4, new Cold War. We call it as a new Cold War. We call it as a new Cold War. What are the new Cold War here? Sir, does this treaty mean limiting the launch of satellites? No. Not limiting the launch of satellite, because till the signing of Outer Space Treaty, US and USSR have a competition to occupying the annexing the space. The world countries started either US and USSR, because communism spread throughout here in the entire continent. So the only thing is outer space is available here. So both of them is trying to own the outer space. So in order to avoid outer space between the two countries, they come up with a conclusion that outer space cannot be owned by any single nation. It is for the human mankind, for the productive purpose. So no one can own outer space. That is what they come up with the conclusion of with the prospect and prosperity of the human mankind. Clear? Okay. So that is what. So the new development in the Eastern European countries. What was a new development in the Eastern European countries? First thing, what are Eastern European countries? So the Eastern European countries here are the Eastern European countries are East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania. Only Yugoslavia was not out of the out of the Soviet bloc, because it was not a Soviet country. It was a some independent. It was a communist, but not a satellite of Soviet. The only country in the Eastern Europe which was out of Soviet satellite was Yugoslavia. Okay, so these countries, East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, were the satellites of Soviet Russia. They were the satellites of Soviet Russia. So Soviet Russia controlled all these countries. It controlled all these countries politically, economically, culturally. They control all these. They control all these countries. Okay, so that is the thing. So what happened here in 1970s was, in these Eastern European countries, there were many human rights violations. See here, that was many human rights violations here, because whenever people oppose anything, the Soviets sent the army to Poland, or then to East Germany, or then to Romania, Hungary, or then to Bulgaria. So they oppress the civil liberties. They oppress the civil liberties. So United States of America started to question these human rights. USA started to question these violation of human rights. These violation of the human rights. So the detente phase, the melting, the blossom relationship between the US and USSR once again started to rupture, and it was a ruptured means new development started. So because of the new developments in the Eastern Europe, once again the Cold War started to resume between US and USSR. Okay, so the new Cold War started with the new development in Eastern Europe, like violation of human rights, which was questioned by United States of America, which was not liked by Soviet Russia. So the Cold War resumed. So this started with the resumption of Cold War. The resumption of Cold War between US and USSR. Don't think the Cold War is not ended. Both of them is peacefully coexisting. They were not interfering in anything. They're peacefully going on. But when US started to question the human rights violation in Eastern Europe, once again the hatred feeling, hatred relation, hard relation, once again started between the US and USSR. That is a starting point of the new Cold War. Clear? Okay. Okay. So this is what happened here. And another thing here is the Soviet invasion in the Afghanistan. What is that Soviet invasion in Afghanistan? Okay, first thing we need to understand Afghanistan. Afghanistan was ruled by a king called Dawood. Okay, who was supported by USSR. So Dawood was supported by USSR, but in the post Second World War of 1945, US supported a coup to dethrone this Dawood, and King Muhammad Zagir's son was put on the throne of Afghanistan, who was supported by US. Once again, I'm repeating, Dawood Khan, who was ruling Afghanistan, was supported by Russia. In the post-Second World War of 1945, US supported a military coup against Dawood Khan. He was removed. and Zahir Shah became the king of Afghanistan with the support of United States of America. This was continued up to 1978. Who Zahir Shah continued as a king till 1978. In 1979, Zahir Shah was removed by USSR, and once again they put Daud Khan as a king of Afghanistan by USSR. And to support Daud Khan, USSR invaded into the Afghanistan. To support Daud Khan, USSR invaded into. Okay. To support Daud Khan, USSR invaded into the Afghanistan, but this was not liked by the Afghans. This was not liked by the Afghans. These Afghans show the resistance. Anti-Soviet resistance. What was the name of the resistance group which was put a resistance against the USSR? And the group was called Mujahidins, who declared holy war against USSR. But here, these Mujahidins were supported by United States of America in terms of money, arms, advice, and other things. So USSR invaded in Afghanistan for helping Daud Khan, and this was not liked by the Afghans, who put a resistance against the Soviet, that is called anti-Soviet resistance. This group of people who were called anti-Soviet resistance were called as Mujahidins, and they declared a holy war against Russia. And these Mujahidins were supported by USA with money, arms, and advice. So once again, the Cold War resumed between US and USSR. This is what we called it as a new Cold War. New Cold War during the Cold War era. New Cold War during the Cold War era of 1945, 1991. Actually, this new Cold War era is exclusively from 1976 to 85. Okay, so you can remove this one. Okay, friends, this is what we called it as a Soviet invasion. Later, what happened to the Soviet invasion was, this Soviet invasion ended in 1989 when USSR disintegrated into various states. Only Russia was remained, and the Soviet troops were sent out of Afghanistan, and Afghan became independent from Soviets in 1989. So the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan was continued till from 1979 till 1989. Clear? Friends, are you clear about this one? Friends, are you clear? Pakistan also, sir. What is that Pakistan? Sir, why Afghan obsession, sir? Sir, is to spread communism? No. Even till today, Afghanistan is considered to be as a most important thing in the Europe, in the Asian continent. Means this is because of it make a pivotal role and strategy and geo. Can I clear this all this one? Can I clear all the writings there in the slide? Can I clear this one? Okay. Here, see. Afghanistan is a roadway to Pakistan and then to India. Afghanistan is a roadway to the Central Asian countries like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. It is a roadway to Iran. It is a roadway to the entire Middle East. So it is one of the important area in the geopolitics. Afghanistan. It is a strategic position. It is a strategic position which can be able to control the entire West Asia and Central Asia. So even today, if you have Afghanistan control, you can able to control the Central Asian countries like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and other things. So that is why they wanted to keep it on control. Okay, if why USSR wanted to control Afghanistan means this area today, if you see today, this is a Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, all these things are here. So they wanted to have a boundary of Russia up to this Afghanistan. The resourceful part, they want to keep it under the control. That's why the reason. Clear? Okay. So is the Mujahideen same as the Taliban? One of the group in Mujahideens was the Taliban. Later, these Talibans became more powerful and they became the ruler of this Afghanistan in the post-1991 era. One of the group in the Mujahideens were the Taliban. One of the groups in the Mujahideen was Taliban. Mujahideens have lot of groups. Even Hamas was one of the group there in the Mujahideens. Today, you know the present Israel and the Palestinian war, which is going on in the Middle East. There is one group you heard about in the news that is called the Hamas. That Hamas was also one of the group there in the Mujahideens in the earlier era. These Mujahideens were considered to be as a mother organization for all later terrorist organization, Lakshar-e-Toiba, India, Lakshar-e-Toiba, Pakistan, and Mujahideens and Tajikistan, like these things. Sir, but Hamas are one of the Muslim Brotherhood supporters. What is this Mujahideens? Mujahideens is also called the Mujahideens is also the Brotherhood. That is what Muslim Brotherhood earlier today, but the parent organization and the mother organization for every organization today is the Mujahideens. Okay, I don't want to go deep into this because if we go deep into this, we would divert it somewhere else today. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so this is the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan in 1979. Okay, that would ended after the disintegration. Clear? Okay. Next one. Phase 5, end of the Cold War. Phase 5, end of the Cold War, that is in 1985 to 1991. Okay. Okay. Okay, how the Cold War was ended? What is the reason for the end of the Cold War? The reason for the end of Cold War was the defeat of Soviet Union in Afghanistan in 1989. So it shows that Soviet Union was very weak. Soviet Union was very weak, and it is weakening. So because of that, the Soviet the satellites of USSR started to get disintegrated. One, the failure of communism in the Eastern European countries, because they can't keep communism for so long. Communism is what? Strict control everywhere, in everything. They will provide a limited ration. They provide a limited domestic goods. You can't own any private property. The life there in the communist country is a very strict one. So that's why the people not like in the Eastern European, because the Soviet Union suppressed the civil liberties there. So they can't able to control that. And the failure of communism in Eastern Europe was one of the reasons for the disintegration of Soviet Russia. And the economic weakness of the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union was completely the economic failure. The economic failure, because failure. They can't able to take anything. So only Moscow was a fertile part there in the Soviet Russia, but everything they got it only from the Eastern communities only. So the weakness or the economic weakness of the Soviet Russia was also one of the reason. Okay. The next reason. The next one was a role of Gorbachev. Gorbachev was elected as a president in 1985, the president of USSR. He introduced two policies. One is called glasnost, that is openness, openness in debate. Communism is open for debate because communism is not open for any debate in Soviet Russia during the time. Now, what he told was you can criticize communism because when you criticize, you can get a constructive conflict. Because if you keep on criticizing, you can get some ideas from them. So we can refine from the criticism, and we can develop. So that was his idea. See, pointing out the mistake is one of a good thing for correcting oneself. So that is what he introduced. That is called the glasnost, openness. Criticizing the Soviet government is good thing and need of the hour. Uh, what was realized by Gorbachev. So that was a policy that is called openness. Okay, so opening for debate. Communist and its Soviet communism, Soviet administration, and everything is open for the debate, open for criticism, open for the people how they are working and everything. That is called the glasnost. Perestroika means structural change in the economic policy. Economic policy, that is USSR means, that is we know that only nationalization, is nationalization. Now in 1985 they allowed for privatization, so that is what changed in the economic policy, that is called perestroika, that is privatization were allowed in the Russia. So that is what the two policies that were introduced by, that was a policy introduced by Gorbachev. And the corruption that present in USSR is also one of the main reasons for the disintegration of the Soviet Russia, that is the corruption. The fall of Berlin Wall in 1989. See, that is a Berlin Wall. See, I told you there is a Berlin is divided into two, East Berlin and West Berlin, and the Berlin is divided into two. And now the Berlin Wall was demolished, and now the East Berlin and West Berlin is united, and Berlin became one single city. And this fall of Berlin in 1989 symbolizing the disintegration of the Soviet Russia. And also not only that, liberation movements in the Eastern Europe, rise of nationalism, because here Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, these wanted to rule by themselves. They wanted, that is their regional nationalism. See, all these were the satellites under USSR. They don't want to be a puppet in the hand of the USSR. So they wanted to rule by themselves. So they wanted to get liberation from USSR. That is what we called it as a emergence of nationalism in the Eastern European countries that symbolizes the disintegration of USSR. And because of this, the power shifted from USSR to the republics. And disarmament movement like NPT, disarmament like SALT treaty, all these also limited the, all these also symbolizing the disintegration of the Soviet Russia, symbolizing the disintegration of the Soviet Russia. So at the end, in 1980 and 1991, USSR was disintegrated. Clear? So that is the end of the Cold War. Friends, Cold War is ended. Can we move to the next two small topic, non-aligned movement and decolonization? Can we move? Why was the year 1989? Because of the policy which was introduced by the Glasnost and other things. So already it was weakening. Already it was breaking one brick by brick. But in 1989, the entire thing was collapsed. That is the thing. So now we are moving to the new chapter, a small chapter that is called non-aligned movement. Clear? Non-aligned movement. Okay. What is the basic concept of the non-aligned movement? Basic fact. The basic fact of non-aligned movement. It was emerged during the era of Cold War. That is one thing. It was created on the Bonn Conference of 1985. That is one thing. Non-aligned movement countries were not joined either with the US or with the USSR bloc. They were the neutral countries. They were the neutral countries during the entire Cold War. Okay. Approximately, there were 114 member countries till 1991. I have calculated. This number is not a constant. It is only approximately. It is always variable one. It is always a variable one. Approximately till 1991, it was 114 member countries. One of the very highest group of member countries after the United Nations organization. Okay. Also, these NAM countries were called as third world countries. And another most important thing, India was one of the founding member of the NAM. Clear? These are all the basic factors. Clear? Okay. What we needed. What were the objectives of the NAM? Objectives of NAM. See, to eliminate all causes which would lead to war. No more war. It to prevent war. NAM is support for preventing the war. Freedom of newborn independent countries. Freedom for the newborn independent countries in Asia and in Africa. Next one. Colonization, imperialism, and racial discrimination it opposes. No accepting for colonization, imperialism. Sovereign equality for all states. It encourages friendly relation among countries. Okay. Solving the international disputes. Useful. It opposes, most importantly, it opposes for the nuclear weapons. Strengthen for world peace. It strengthen for the world peace. It to protect human rights. Build a new economic order based on equality, equity, and justice. That is new order, economic order. Okay, these were the objectives of the NAM. Clear? It is present everywhere. Simply you go through this one. Okay, that is not much important. This is what we needed. So, what was the role of NAM in the Cold War era? Role. It was against apartheid. It was against apartheid. It was apartheid. It was happening in South Africa. Apartheid in South Africa. It is in South Africa. Discrimination. With white and the blacks. White and the blacks. So the NAM was against apartheid in the South Africa. That is most important thing. It promoted throughout the world for the disarmament. That is non-nuclear free world. For the nuclear free world. It is also asking for the United Nations Security Council reform. Even today, that is all, every country, the third world country is asking for the UNSC reforms. Emerging global order. So the NAM was emerged as a new global order. It emerged as a new global order. But these are all the positives of NAM. These are all the positives of NAM. What about the negatives of NAM? Negatives of NAM. It failed to resolve regional tension. For example, Indo-Pakistan war between India, China. There are a lot of disputes between various countries. There are political disputes, boundary disputes, and many other disputes around the world. So it failed to resolve the regional tensions around the world. That is one of the biggest failure and crisis facing by the man. Okay, this is the era of role of NAM in the Cold War era. What was the what is the relevance of NAM? What is the relevance of NAM? See, NAM is to support for world peace. This is what examination point of view. NAM is always, even today in the present world of 21st century, in the 21st century of 2021, what is the relevance of NAM? Relevance means why we need NAM. It is for world peace, promoting territorial integrity and sovereignty of member countries. For that, it is still considered as a protector of the third world nations, like Africa, and other Latin American countries, world like African countries and Latin American countries. Latin American countries means South American countries. Okay, support United Nations in issues, various issues in the General Assembly is supported for the United Nations organization based on the issues. It is supporting for the cooperation for the highest sustainable economic growth, support for sustainable development. That is what we are having, Sustainable Development Goal, United Nations Organization Program, UNO program. Conscientious decision on global burning issues like climate change, migration, and global terrorism. It opposing for all these things. Okay. And it is promoting for cultural diversity, protecting human rights, equitable world order, protecting the rights of third world countries in WTO. In WTO, the third world countries are paying the issues of subsidiary issues from the developed countries, subsidiary issues from the developed countries. So they are facing from the issues from these countries. So to protect the rights, to protect the rights of developing countries, to protect the rights of the developing countries in WTO, NAM is required today. To same thing like that, to protect the rights of the third world countries in the climate change agreements. We need to support for the NAM. We need to not only support for NAM, we need a support of the NAM. Against NAM, we need for against drug trafficking, human trafficking, and arms trafficking, which was present there in most of the third world countries. Okay. Third world countries, we need to have the requirement of the NAM. Okay, so for this purpose, we need to have the NAM. Okay, so that is about the NAM. Okay. Next one, decolonization. Decolonization. Factors responsible for decolonization. What are the factors responsible for decolonization? The factors responsible. During World War II, nationalism emerged in colonies because of invasion. For example, take India. Okay, leave India. No, sorry. Okay. No, don't take India. During World War II, nationalism was emerged in the colonies because of invasion. Where? In Africa, in Vietnam, and in Burma, and in Sri Lanka. So in these countries, there were emerging nationalism. So the imperialist countries cannot hold the colonies for a very long period of time. So they granted independence. That is one reason. Emergence of independence movement in colonies. This is where India comes. India. We are in the Quit India movement. We are in the Quit India movement, last phase of our Indian national movement. So we are in the last phase of the Indian national movement. So that is the in many colonies, independence movements were emerged. That is why decolonization was accepted after the Second World War. Atlantic Charter of 1941. This Atlantic Charter was signed by USA and USSR and also by British to give independence to the colonies. To give independence to the colonies. So that is what we call it as a Atlantic Charter. Because see, British is keeping India as a colony, but at the same time, if it is opposing the Germany and other countries for annexation, means how it is conceptually accepting one. So British. So US, British and other imperialist countries are accepted for liberation, giving independence for the colonies after the Second World War was over. So that is why after Second World War, decolonization was put it into effect. Okay, reference. Okay. The two great wars weakened the economy. The two great wars weakened the economy of the imperialist countries. Yes, World War I. 1919 ended. World War II started in 1939. Only 20 years gap. 20 years gap, two great wars is impossible. British, France, Germany, Italy, all were devastated because of the two great wars. The economy was completely pathetic because of this two great wars. So the two great wars completely destroyed the economy of the imperialist country like British, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, and all these things. Clear? Okay. In the post-war, USA emerged as a superpower. The only country which was emerged as a superpower, one of the country which emerged as a superpower after the Second World War was a excuse me. Only the country which emerged as a superpower after the Second World War is United States of America. That is why the reason. Okay. Next one. So Q means Quit India Movement. QIM means Quit India Movement. Quit India Movement. Ideologically, both USA and USSR not accepting the colonization. Yes, both of them is not accepting the concept of the colonization. USA and USSR is not accepting the concept of the colonization because both of them, USA itself was one of a colony earlier before the World War. USA itself is one of the colony in the earliest era of 18th century. It got independence from the British, so you know what was a horrible condition as a colony. So USA opposed for colonization. USSR also opposed for the colonization. Ideologically, both of them not accepting the concept of colonization. So decolonization became most effective. Next one. The role of United Nations organization in effecting decolonization was most one. So the United Nations organization forcefully put forward the decolonization. That's why the United Nations. That's why the decolonization becomes effective in after 1945. Okay. The role of NAM in decolonization. The NAM countries were very powerful in supporting for decolonization. That's why the decolonization was very effective after the 1945. Post colonies effectively supported for decolonization like India. India was a colony under British. But once India gets independent, it's supported for the decolonization of countries like like countries like Kenya, South Africa, Uganda, like these things, Zambia, like these things. It's many past colonies, once they get free, they supported for the decolonization. That's why the United Nations can't be able to hold the colonization, and they put forward the decolonization. That is another reason for the decolonization. Okay. What are the pros and cons of the decolonization? Pros, positives of decolonization. Independence of the colonies is the most important thing. All colonies got independent. No longer they were become the colonies, and they were the independent countries, and they were the independent republics. They were the independent republics. One. The end of the European hegemony of British imperialism ended. The France imperialism is ended. The France imperialism is ended. The Dutch imperialism is ended in Indonesia. The Belgium independence is ended in the Zaire, and like this, the European hegemony. The European hegemony means supremacy. The supremacy was ended. The end of drain of wealth. Yes, the colonies' wealth were protected, and the end of the drain of wealth. No more exploitation of the colonies. Integrity and sovereignty of the colonies. Yes, the integrity and sovereignty of the colonies is going to be preserved hereafter. Okay. The cultural preservation of the colonies. Some colonies preserved, some colonies adopted the imperialist countries' culture, that we cannot able to do that. So some of the countries preserved the cultural, the countries preserved the cultures. So cultural preservation. Okay. What were the cons? What are the negatives? What were the cons? We call it as what were the cons of the colonies? Negatives. Cultural synthesis, indigenous culture were lost. For example, most of the African countries are following the French culture, British culture, Italian culture, Belgium culture, Portugal culture, like these things. So the indigenous culture were lost. Synthesis of Western culture with the respective countries. Like example, take India. Still we are following English. We are having British system. Parliament we are having. Many things we are following from the British, because we have been the colony under the British. So we are adopting the British administration, British political system, and all these things. Okay. So that is the thing. And political and administrative adaptation, that is what I told you. Some countries were not suitable to the political and administrative techniques, but still they followed the same thing. For example, most of the African countries followed the political and administrative adaptation of the Western countries, which is not suitable to them. Okay, so they continued with them. Drain of resources, neo-colonization, that is multinational companies are exploiting the resources of the countries. For example, most of the African countries resources are still exploited by the multinational companies, by United States of America, by UK, by France, by Germany today. So that is what we call it as a neo-colonization today. Okay. So colonization is still continued in the form of neo-colonization. That is what we can say. Border conflict with the neighboring countries. For example, India-Pakistan border, India-China border, Cyprus border, and the German-Poland border, North Korea, South Korea border. Like this thing, numerous border. Why we can take example, Palestinian-Israel border conflict. The country itself is a conflicted one. So the conflict among the countries was because of the problem which was created by the masters. The problem that was created by the masters. Masters means imperialist countries I mentioned here. And other thing, Civil war in certain states post colonization. Mostly that was in the African countries. Civil war, ethnic war, civil war. That is the civil war and the ethnic war there in the African countries continued, because once the once the imperialist countries were left, the civil war resumed, ethnic war resumed, because of that political instability in Africa and Latin American countries. So that weakened the political system. It completely weakened the political system. It weakened the political system of the colonies, past colonies. Okay, so the cons of decolonization is where the things clear. Okay. Okay, that's all we ended with this one. That's all. We have completed. We have completed. Any doubts you can ask now. I am going. Yes, we have completely. We entered the class. Some of the people have asked for the book list. Okay, I will write the book list here. Some already I have given the book list. No. Okay, I write it here. The book list. I write the book list here. The story of civilization. This is 10th standard. Old NCERT by Arjun Dev. Another book is Contemporary World History. This is 12th standard. Arjun Dev. Or you follow these books, otherwise class notes and SIA material. That is enough, more than enough. Class notes and SIA material is more than enough. Sir, we had the 17 topics discussed in the first class and that was completely covered. Anything add we needed to look at? No, not necessary. All the 17 topics is covered the entire world. You see, not need to study anything. In 2009, there was a question regarding decolonization Malay Peninsula. You write all these things in Malay Peninsula. Who was ruling the Malay Peninsula? British only ruling that. So the British left that. That's all. Simply what the thing I told you, write these things. Who ruled the Malay Peninsula means Malaysia. You write about few things about the Malay Peninsula. Malay Peninsula was ruled by the British for the strategic purpose and other resources present there. But after Second World War, they can't be able to hold because of the weekend of the British and the left there. That's all. That is the answer for that one. Simply. This is like a template for all the things. This is a template for everything. Okay. So these are the books. I write my mail ID here. That is here. I write my official mail ID. In case if you're having any doubt, you can ask me things. Okay, I have given my official mail ID. In case if you are having any doubt, you can write to my mail ID. I will clarify your doubt. Clear? So very nice to speak to you people. Very nice to have a class with you. It's a very long journey for we people, especially for the third batch people. I'm I have typed that. Okay. I will ask them to write it. Okay, I will write my mail ID here. No need to worry. I will write my mail ID here. I write my mail ID here. Don't worry. Ganesh.bk@shankarias.in. This is my official mail. Thank you very much. Take care of you. We have completed the session. Okay, having a son, such a wonderful wealth of learning and a good insights of what is such a patient answer for our. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I am ending the session. In case you are having any query, you post it to my mail ID. You can get your PPT either today night or tomorrow morning. You get it in your Telegram channel. Clear? Thank you very much. Good night. Take care of you. Be safe. Thank you very much. I am ending the session.